Welcome. You are listening to the End Time Courage podcast with Lauren and Amy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to End Time Courage with Lauren and Amy. We are so happy and thankful that you've joined us today, and we're kind of doing a part two. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, I highly encourage you to go back and listen to that one, because today is certainly going to tie into that one. And we've been talking about the Babylon system and what is it? What does it look like? Last week's episode was very much about Daniel and how he remained strong and he remained true to who he was, even though he was living in the Babylonian Empire. And we tied that in to how Babylon really looks like where we live today, here in the West, here in the world. And so how do we do that? How do we remain strong and steadfast in a world that is really values things that are very different? And I believe as, the days are ahead, Lauren, that there's really going to be a separation between those who just know about God and kind of give some token, attention to Him, and those who are really committed to staying true to Yahweh in the midst of a world that is moving further and further away from Him, His name, His values. We just had the Grammy show just a few days ago, and I have sat back with astonishment at the amount of unbelievers who are calling that a satanic show.
They recognize it.
I was floored. Like, you're going to get online and you're going to hear your, prophetic people.
You expect the Christian community.
You expect them to be like, something's not quite right here. But when secular people who are in the world are feeling like something is wrong, so what's happened? What has happened? And again, this is no judgment on the people who are deceived. I pray for Hollywood.
Right.
I do. There are specific ones that God has highlighted to me that I've been praying for their salvation for years and will continue to do so. So this is not condemning a certain person, but it is recognizing there's a spirit behind this that is very much Antichrist, that is very much satanic, and they are getting more blatant with their willingness to say, like, yeah, we're not even trying to hide who we are anymore. This is who we are. And yes, we are right in the midst of the entertainment industry. We are right in the midst of television, and it elicits a response from us.
Yeah.
And again, so it's more than just, oh, don't watch television or, don't listen to this person. It's more about what is happening in the world right now that is making this more blatant. And we know that one of those answers is because we are approaching the end time.
We are.
We're getting closer and closer. So now is the time for us to start asking for massive wisdom from the Lord about what do we do to protect ourselves,
strategies,
and our families. That we need blueprints, we need strategies to be able to, one, recognize it, and then two, take a stand against it and not enter into the system. So what do you think about that, Lauren?
Good point about the Grammy thing, because my gosh, like you said, you can get on these social media platforms and just know that they're going to be talking about it. But when the world starts talking about it, they're starting to see. But also too, I have a different lens at how I look at that as well. And you have to understand that these performers are being groomed by the system. And somewhere along the line, some producer, somebody cutting the check, somebody running their calendars or whatever is saying, this is going to sell. This is going to sell. You act like this, you squat like this, you turn around like this, you wear this red, you put on these horns, and it's just fire. We're going to blow it here and blow it there. They're getting counsel. And it's like what we were talking about in the last podcast last week about the grooming. Babylon did the same thing. your beauty, the sex, the astonishment, the shock, Daniel, for instance, and the three that went in, it says in the Bible that he purposely picked the most good looking out of the Israelites that came in. They were gorgeous teenagers, which I don't think a lot of people know this. Daniel paid a big price to be in that system. I'm not saying for his faith, but also they castrated Daniel. He was an eunuch. How do you say it? Eunuch? Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people know that. They did that to him, So the enemy goes after the seed. It goes after, demasculating men. It goes after that, because if you don't have the men, if you don't have the seed, then you don't have the families united. You don't have the structure. You don't have everything that is built for a family to be strong in the Lord. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's happening today. And they're just being groomed. They're being groomed by Babylon.
And a lot of them from children. Mm-hmm. The amount of stories of young girls who were offered, oh, we just want to take a couple of pictures of you, mm-hmm. and you'll make this amount of money. Mm-hmm. A lot of them come from very poor, broken homes. They know who to target. Mm-hmm. There's no protective dad and mom. And so they agree. Well, the next thing they know, this has happened over and over and over again. Oh, well, we actually can't take your picture here. We need to fly you here. Mm-hmm. And the next thing these girls know is they're basically in a hotel with a bunch of porn performers.
There you go.
And what they signed to was, I'm going to let you take my picture.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pay you a couple of $100s.
Right.
Well, now they're here and it's like, oh, well, this is a little bit different than what you signed off on. But if you do this, we'll give you $10,000. Oh, well, now we actually even want it to be more. And so a lot of what we're seeing, and the very people that we would be prone to condemn, we don't understand the process. It's what you're saying. They were groomed. And there was a process. A lot of them didn't go into this saying, yeah, I want to perform and look like Satan, and I want to be a Satan worshiper. And no, that's not what most of them said yes to. Mm-hmm. They said yes to something that was much more benign, and it developed into something that was a whole lot more evil and sinister. Because why? Because it's a system, and they're after our young people.
That's right.
And they want the wealthy and they want the beautiful, mm-hmm. Just like the Babylonian Empire did back in Daniel.
Yeah, and I do want to make a correction. I said castration on Daniel. I know we're all adults here, so I think you can get this picture. He wasn't castrated; he was still a man. But when they bring you into a king's quarters, right? And those, I can never say the word.
Mm-hmm.
Eunuchs. When they make a man a eunuch, they take the testicles. That's what they do. So Daniel was still a man. And that's what I love about Daniel. Even though they took the seed from him, that he would never be able to be a father and have a wife and a family, he still remained a man. Mm-hmm. They couldn't take that from him because of his faith and because he knew who he was in God. Yes. And so, when you're talking about the grooming, some people listening will be like, well, that would never happen to me. I can recognize those things. Can you? Mm-hmm. Because I'm about to describe to you the system that's being built, and you sent me this video because you tapped into something that I'm trying to put together, and some prophetic communities are trying to put together. You're trying to put together, but we don't have the words to describe what the Lord is telling us. So when I speak, or when you speak, or prophets speak, and we say these things, the church has backlash because we have a hard time describing what's out in the future and what's coming, mm-hmm. right? And so these facts that we're about to lay out from a video you sent, and I will link the video, guys, in the YouTube so you can watch it yourself if you want. It's about an hour or so
mm-hmm.
have some time to sit and listen to it. A non-believer describes these facts about what's surrounding us on a daily basis.
Yes.
And what we're saying yes to, that is for safety reasons, convenience reasons.
Right.
The
And it's like what
grooming
we said, the
reasons.
friendly captivity.
Yeah.
We
the friendly
don't,
captivity.
and you're going to get more into this, but when our phone gives us an option of a Face ID,
Oh my gosh.
so that we don't have to remember a password, that looks so helpful and convenient to us. But as we're going to talk about, there's more to the story than just the fact that they're not just trying to make you getting into your phone easier. There is a plot and a twist behind
There's
that.
a plot and a twist behind it. And where you may say, well, I would never be able to be groomed like that with vanity and all of these things. But this is no different. This is a grooming.
Yes.
This is a slow lead into the slaughterhouse, like we were talking about last week. So we'll just start with this digital prison that they're starting to up and erect. I get a lot of pushback on some things that I discuss in the financial markets when I talk about digital assets. Now, there is a transfer that's coming, and it doesn't have to be with digital assets. It's just a form of a way for us to gain tools to be able to get out of the system. There's going to be other ways that the Lord gives his people. And we've talked about this, agriculture and land and opportunities and business ventures and all these things. But they're for the purpose of being able to create spaces where we don't have to be in this system. We don't have to be a digital prisoner.
So what's going to be good about this for our viewers is the fact that Lauren and I and other people who are prophetic, we're beginning to sense some of these things about what is coming at the end of the age. And to people who do not have that gift, and we talked about that a few episodes ago about who am I, if you're an evangelist, you may listen to the prophets and be like, they have lost their ever-loving minds, bless their hearts, because prophets do see out into the future, but the Bible tells us to not despise prophecy.
That's right.
It's the one gift that the Bible actually gives a warning. And to me, it means you're probably going to be prone to despise what some of the prophetic voices are saying. Don't do that. It also says test the prophecies. And so today we invite anything that we ever share for you to go test for yourself. But what was so great about this and about what Lauren's about to dive into is that an unbeliever who is in the system, who has intel about the system, is echoing what the prophets have been saying for several years.
And he doesn't even know it.
And he doesn't even know. He's not looking at it from that perspective at all. So yes, share with us what we learned on this video.
So what I found fascinating about this video and about this non-believer describing, because he is a tech guy, he comes from the tech world, engineering type of background and all the things, computer program, all the things. So he's very knowledgeable about this stuff. And so he was going through the prisons that we're in that we don't notice, that aren't live yet. But the plan is to go live with this system to be able to control the population, not just in America, not just in Europe or the Middle East, globally.
Yes.
And I don't think that it's too big of a secret to know that all of these prime ministers, presidents, rulers of our nations on this globe, they love to talk about this 2030 agenda and this hoax of a climate warming situation. And because it's a fake national disaster that they try to create to control the population. So when we talk about this matrix or this grid that they're developing, we're talking about facial recognition, which is basically your phone on your camera. It's got a 3D invisible pixel capability of taking this image of your face that is just like a fingerprint. It's specifically for you. Like your dimensions of your nose and your eyes and everything spaced differently and the pores on your skin does not look like anybody on the planet.
Right.
And they start there. And they use that as it's convenient. You don't have to remember passwords. Look what we gave you. It's so easy. Just pick up your phone, and then every time you open up an app, bank account, all the things, it's going to just open it up. No more passwords. See what we've done for you?
Right.
Use it.
Right.
And if you've noticed, we had to opt into that. Like, I got tired of doing my phone a bajillion times, and so when it finally asked me, why don't you just do your face? I'm like, okay, fine. I've been doing my password for 2-3 years now. I'm just going to do my face. So we had to opt into that.
Right.
It was a choice.
Yes.
Out of convenience.
Right.
At some point, it won't be a choice, but some of us have already opted into that.
Yes, because he was talking about how, yes, that this isn't just our face on a phone. This is recorded. There's a thumbprint that leads to that. And then our cities are filled with cameras who are recognizing that face that we keep opening our phone with. And AI intelligence is gathering that information. And so at the end of the day, I'm known as this person who opened my phone this many times. I walked into Publix. I drove by this road. I frequented this church. And the end goal is that we're put into categories.
Yes, social credit scoring.
Yes,
that's
based
where it's headed.
on where my face has been shown. And yes, it is recorded.
It is.
And it is filed in a computer system. And then I am rated as to what kind of citizen I am based on where I'm going. Am I spending $5,000 at Von Moore, or am I one of those people who keep showing up to prayer meeting at church? Yes, that is being filed.
It is, and that's going to become a threat.
Yes.
Yes. They're going to consider us the terrorist.
Correct.
And them the normal people. But what I find super interesting is because people are not identifying this, we're going to go further down this rabbit hole, is that, the church wants to get all upset with just little tiny things that are new that they don't understand. We'll talk about cryptocurrencies. It's like they want to not participate or understand a new technology because it's the beast system. But what you don't understand is you're in it. Already in it. You've already said yes to all of these things. Your Alexa, your Apple Watch, your iPhone. There's cameras on every corner. Your car,
Roomba.
Your Roomba, which I have one, by the way.
I do too.
Yeah. Siri. You get in your car and this car tracks everywhere that you go. I get in my Suburban, it tells me, oh, you want to go to church today? Because it's mapping my habits.
Right.
It already knows where I'm going.
Yes.
So does my phone.
And it's not just your car.
No.
That's coming from a computerized system.
Yes, an AI
that
technology.
is tracking us and everywhere we go. And yes, the end game is that those people who are at home and at church and at prayer meetings will have a lesser score. They will be less able to buy and purchase certain things because we will not be known as high value citizens.
Yes.
And how would they know that? How would they know that
Because a data has been for years just putting information on your file via the cloud for a decade. And that's why we talk about 2030. I get a lot of pushback also because I've thrown a date out there. And I don't know why I have to keep saying this, Amy. I don't know why I have to keep saying this. I have not thrown out a date that Jesus is returning. I don't know how many times I have to say that. I've said, and we've said in the prophetic community and what's coming out of the prophetic community is by this time, things will not look the same.
Right.
It will be impossible to operate the way we've always operated. And if you hadn't established yourself and built a system, you're going to be forced to be plugged into the system. So when the mark of the beast does come, that the whole church is waiting for, you're going to take it and not realize you've taken it.
Right.
Because you couldn't pay your bill, because you couldn't get groceries, because you couldn't get on that flight, because you got sick or your child got sick and they denied you at the hospital because you don't have this chip or whatever it is that it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be. So I'm not saying that 2030 is Jesus' return. I'm saying that the Bible tells us that our world is going to be so completely bonkers that a system's going to arise that's so awful, it'll be like a beast because it's just horrific. We have no privacy. We are in a digital prison. They tell us when we can and cannot buy something because of our credit score. And you think, what is a credit score? What are you talking about? Well, they've already implemented it in China.
Right.
China is under the communistic hellhole. Where they literally have a credit score depending on their behavior, what they post on social media, what they say on their podcast, what they say their phones are recording, and it goes to the government database. And so anything that's negative against Xi Jinping, or was that his name, right? Or anything political or anything that's against what the government believes they should be talking about, their score goes lower, which means they can't fly.
Right.
They can't leave the country. They can't get a nice home. They can't get credit to buy a nice home. They're kind of outcasted in society. So they're in a digital prison.
That's right.
And that's where this goes. So a little fact that was astonishing to me, Amy, that in this video, so while we were all put away in our homes from the CV situation in 2019 to 2021, 22-ish, they put up, I wrote it down here, 50 million cameras in the U.S. alone.
Yes.
50 million plugged up and connected to the internet that reports to an AI, an artificial intelligence cloud that is data accumulating.
Yes. You can watch this video. And this, again, this is not from a believer.
Yeah.
This is inside intel that they were able to do this because we were all at home and we were not watching. We weren't
what
in
they
the
were doing.
malls. We weren't in the restaurants. And
And when
so,
they're questioned about it, it's for your protection.
of course it is.
It's for your protection, and
Right.
it's for your convenience.
And your convenience.
If you get into an accident, we can see the crime. We did this for you.
Right. Yeah.
Yet we're arguing if the crypto assets is the mark of the beast. This is the things that the church does. And yet we're in the matrix.
Well, and again, it's like with cryptocurrencies, and again, not everyone has to be in
No,
cryptocurrencies.
that's not what I'm saying.
That's not the point at all.
No.
But the point is
Yeah.
that there are a whole lot other things that are part of the beast system that we've already bought into.
That's right.
And, I'm on
said yes to.
Facebook. You're on Facebook. If you research the timing of Facebook, and you'll have to do some digging, but it is out there. There was actually a surveillance system that was placed on the American people, I think by the FBI, one of those 3-letter organizations. And they were accumulating all this information, our children's pictures, all of this. And there was such an uproar that they knew that they were going to have to take it down. There was an actual meeting of what are we going to do because we want this information. And they said, we're going to come up with a way that they will do it themselves.
Wow.
They will tell it on themselves. And the day that surveillance program was taken down is the exact same day that Facebook went live.
Yeah, there's no way that the Zuckerberg guy just in his dorm room, just like, I'm just going to create this, whatever. And it ended up being a global hotspot of info.
Yes. So
That
we
don't
tell
happen.
them that we have the ability to give them our location.
Yeah.
Here's me and my husband, and we're at Mimi's Cafe on Buford Drive at this time eating this food. And so it's friendly captivity.
That's right.
Because for us, it's just this fun social media thing of like, I can see where my friend is going. Well, guess what? So can a whole lot of other people.
Yeah, and it's like us playing a game. And then soon we're going to be checkmate. And that's what the Lord is telling us in Revelation. At some point, there's a checkmate.
Right.
And at some point, you're going to have to decide, were you wise with the time I gave you? I told you what was going to happen. And I told you to watch out. And I told you that nothing new was under the sun and what would be again was going to come.
Yes.
And I told you that this system, we called it, this image of the beast, to watch out for it.
Well, and what's interesting is, if I'm not mistaken, this unbeliever calls it the beast system.
He calls it does. He references to his Christian friends, and because they tell him what they know.
Yeah.
And so he was on the thing going, and this beast, he's like, yeah, I'm going to call it a beast because it is like a beast system. And to me, my antennas are going up because it is the system.
Right.
It's what the Lord warned us.
It is the system. And again, to your point that yes, crypto, could it be used for evil? Yes.
Sure.
So can your dollar bill.
Sure.
I mean, there's a whole lot of believers who have a lot of videos about all the symbolism that's terrible on our dollars. But guess what? We all probably have a $20 bill or a $1 bill in our cars because that is the system that we're in. But there's a lot of evil that's done with the dollar bill.
Yeah.
And so there's not this clear way out of like, I'm just not going to involve myself in crypto, and then I'm not part
of the beast.
I'm not part of the beast.
Yeah, they
system.
have the phone, the face recognition. They have, the cars that's tracking. They have Alexa. They have Siri. They have a TV that's listening. Your phone, anything with a microphone can listen to you.
Well, and again, would you agree with this? I feel that, and we made this comment with Daniel, that we were born into this system. When you think about the IRS and Medicaid and Medicare, the government taking care of you, was that not the first part of captivity?
Right.
That we're all of a sudden buying in and we're relying on the government. If I give the government this amount of my money, then they will promise to take care of me when I'm old. Well, who are we supposed to be relying on
them
to take care of us when we're old? Is that not the Lord who does that? And so we have been born into this system. God's desire always for his children was for them to be free to escape
Free.
captivity. And we were born into it, and we don't even question it because it's all that we've ever known. But I don't think the plan of God was forever for his children to rely on the government to take care of them, to be involved, for us to be taxed to death.
Watched continuously,
Yes.
listened to all the time.
Like this is not what the Lord had for his children. But again, we've bought into it because it has looked friendly and convenient. And so what we're saying is it's not the beast, the Antichrist, whoever is not going to show up
No.
with a pitchfork
No.
saying, I want to take your children captive.
Mm-hmm.
Are you giving a yes or no? We are being inched into this system with our approval
Yeah.
because it is convenient.
You don't think
for
the enemy
us.
doesn't know that word? He knows it. We all know that he knows it.
Yes.
And he knows that he can't just come out and just come and, like you said, come out with this beast system and make us all go. He knows better. It is a slow walk and a permissive walk into his system that he's built. And he's not thinking that you're reading your Bible because the Lord has warned you.
Right.
You know, here another fact that he was saying is that they globally have put in 1 billion cameras globally by 2022. 1 billion. So you leave this nation or that nation, you're still tracked. You're still tracked. You're still watched. So what this is going to end up looking like, these carbon, you're going to start hearing a lot of this lingo. I was hearing it 2 years ago and I was trying to study it, but I got bored with it because it really wasn't mainstream. But now it's starting to be carbon footprints. Mm-hmm. Now they're starting to put carbon footprints. I haven't flown in a little bit, but people are starting to see it on their flight receipts. This is how much carbon emissions you've put out by buying this ticket. You know, and they're also doing this on, I wrote it down, carbon footprinting on, how much you're flying, how much beef you're eating, how much chicken you're eating, right? Because I guess the poop from the cows are emitting methane. It's just something wonky that these globalists are talking about. And because of how much beef you're eating, you're now reliable for the methane gas that's, exhaled from the cows.
Wow.
So you only get, 5 pounds this month for meat. That's where this is going.
Right.
And with the digital system and this credit score, they're going to be able to dictate how often you can fly because you've flown too much. You've produced way too much carbon because you've bought way too many plane tickets.
Wow.
And you know what? Because we're able to monitor your blood sugar and everything from your Apple Watch and all this, you're going to cost us a lot in the medical system with your diabetes. So you know what? We're going to lock the freezer to the grocery store because you can't get that ice cream.
That's
because we've noticed on your Apple Watch that your blood sugar's high and you're going to cost us money because we're going to pay for it.
Yes, this is true, guys.
This is true.
Yes.
And you're going to say, well, I'll just pay cash or I'll just not have the iPhone. There's going to be cameras on the freezers at the grocery store. There's cameras when you check out at your self-checkout. You say you want to use cash. Well, you still got a camera looking at your face and the register is going to show what you bought.
Right. That's
you
exactly
cannot
right.
get out of this. So if you want to say, let's pray against this, let's use cash, we're not going to support this. I'm sorry, but the Bible says it's coming.
Right.
So you can pray against it all you want, or you can be wise as serpents, gentle as doves, and figure out how to use the system to get out of it.
Well, and again, like we would think, oh, that could never happen.
It's happening.
How much beef I have, how much beef I buy. Were we not limited on how much toilet paper we could buy just a
Amen.
couple of years ago?
Yeah.
There are
there's toilet
signs right now in grocery stores that you can only buy 1 dozen eggs.
Yeah.
And so, they're gathering this information. How are these people handling only being able to buy 12 eggs this week?
Right. It's a social experiment.
This is a social experiment because you're exactly right. This is coming. All of this information is leading somewhere. And when people talk about like, why are you talking about 2030? Nobody knows when Jesus comes. That's exactly right. The point I'm trying to make is that people who are in the system are saying these things are going to be taking place by 2030. Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do?
And as we wrap up, talking about what are we going to do real quickly, that's what this podcast is about. We have little snippets telling you, okay, if you're going to use digital assets for a way to gain capital, I'm just using that as an example because I know it well. For you, it could be agriculture and land, right? For somebody, it could be that business the Lord told you to start and the doors are opening up. It could be because, the Lord took someone off their throne in a business and yet you were able to move into that business because you're righteous and they were wicked, and now that business is growing, you've got capital that way. My point is that however the Lord transfers capital to you, it is this time within these next 7 years, that's all that we got to be able to build Goshens. And a lot of people are like, what's a Goshen? It is a system, or it is a place that protects the righteous people from having to be plugged into it. So when they start taking away your freedoms, you can go, I don't care. Take away my freedom because I have everything I need here, and we've built a Goshen here. And I'm not just talking about you having a hiding place and bunkering down. We're a fellowship of believers. Antioch, okay? Acts Church, where we worked together and we all had solutions. Someone had a solution, the other person had a solution. I'm not talking about, socialism. I'm talking about the kingdom way of doing things.
Yes.
And if you don't have a way to get out of the system while we're in it now and it's not enforced, then you're going to be forced to be plugged into it and forced to make decisions you didn't want or die because you're not going to make that decision because you know the word.
That's so good, Lauren, and it really goes back to what we were saying about Daniel. He resolved very early on.
He did.
Before the stakes were high. And that's what we're talking about today, is that some of what we've been discussing, you don't see that in reality yet. You're not walking out on the street and you're paying the price for where you're going, or are you aware that you are being tracked? Yeah. That's not really a high stake for us right now, but it is coming. So now is the time to resolve in the little things. The biggest encouragement I can give to you as our viewers is to get in the Word, consume the Word. I always say this: glance at the media, glance at the television, but gaze upon the Word, because that's where our hope comes from. That's where our direction comes from. I feel like, Lauren, if you're good with this, I think that we will do almost a part 3, that we will tell our viewers how to practically prepare for what is coming. So we don't want to just give you this information and you be like, oh my goodness, but my face has already been tracked and I don't have land and all these things. No. There is time to prepare. That's why God is telling us right now, because He, in His mercy and in His compassion, is giving us time to prepare for what is coming. And we know that it is coming because there's intelligence about it, but there's also the Word. The Word tells us what is coming, and we have to be prepared for it now. And so I want you to go to the Lord and start asking Him. Maybe you've already sensed that He just wants you to get out of debt. Maybe that's just the first process for you. Maybe the first one is that I'm just not going to watch as much television. I'm really going to dive into the Word, and I'm going to ask the Holy Spirit to speak to me as I read it so that I can prepare for me and my family, and that I can have courage. We're in time courage. We need courage to face what is coming. So begin there. Begin in the Word. Begin in prayer. Ask the Lord to give you wisdom about just one thing that you can do to start preparing. And then next week, we will give you some practical advice on how to prepare this Goshen, because, a lot of pastors right now are talking about Antiochs. They're talking about the early church, and they're talking about the fivefold ministry, which I think is so, so important. I believe God is leading us back into that, but He's also leading us back into the early church and how they operated with one another. It's all of it, right? That they took care of each other. That Church of Acts relied on one another. I sold my land to help feed Lauren, and it was fair, and it was a good plan because it was God's plan. And we're gonna probably have to get back to that in the days ahead. We're going to want to live around believers. We're going to have to rely on our brothers and sisters like we never have before. But there's courage and there's grace for whatever comes. For every time a trial gets hotter, grace becomes more prevalent in our lives. He is with us, He is for us, and He is going to direct us and help us prepare for anything that we might face. So Lauren, thank you for sharing what you shared from that video today. We will link that video if you would like to watch it for yourselves. We hope that you have a blessed week. Thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you next Monday. Bye, guys.